And admit, okay, now I'm going to admit
Yeah,
everybody.
we got the
Okay.
message about
Yeah.
recording. Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the KLCOA What's Up Kennisis Explore Our Lakes webinar. I'm Deb Ratchko, KLCOA co-president, and I am going to turn this over to Jim Prince to start up our meeting. Go ahead, Jim.
Yep. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking time out on a beautiful Wednesday evening to enjoy us to talk about our lakes and exploring our lakes. Um, Tonight we're going to try to get out of here by 8 p.m. I should introduce myself. Jim Prince. I'm one of the vice presidents on the KLCOA and the stewardship director, and I help to coordinate the What's Up Kennisis webinars. So tonight we're going to do a welcome, talk a little bit about the What's Up Kennisis, give you an opportunity to make some suggestions. After that, we'll turn it over to Gino Ariano. He's a board member and traditional rights of way program lead, and he's going to talk about Explore Our Lakes paddling on the traditional rights of way in our waterways around Kennisis. We're going to open it up at the end for questions from participants, and during the webinar, you're welcome to put questions in the chat as well. So we're just going to ask you folks to mute during the presentation. And at the end, you have the ability to unmute yourself. Just put your hand up virtually on Zoom, and we'll get to you if you do have a question, or put it into chat and we'll cover that, and then we'll wrap it up. So in 2021, the KLCOA did an extensive survey. And related to this, one of the questions was, what about the land conservation programs that we're doing, including traditional rights of way, access to properties around our lakes? And 94% of respondents said that the KLCOA land conservations were very important or important. And Gino will talk a little bit about that, what we're doing to preserve lands. And at the end, I'm going to come back around and talk about the lands that we own that the public has access to and are there for our enjoyment. So the What's Up Kennisis, we try and do one in the spring and one in the fall. We're looking for additional topics. We've done, I guess, 6 or 7 so far. A couple topics on the table are boating safety, some pesticides. We've seen some mosquito buzz signs out this year. Not sure how people feel about that. Renting your cottage with the STR stuff going on, perhaps a webinar on how cottage renting, you can do the right things to keep the lakes happy, happy renters, happy owners, happy lakes. Folks that are new to Kennisis, a webinar for new property owners. Things about invasive species. We've been doing a lot more work on invasives the last few years, and I think we could probably do one of those. And then perhaps talk about the KLCOA land. So those are some proposed topics. If you think one of those is good, send an email to klcoapresident.17@gmail.com. Or if you have another topic, just let us know. And then a shout out to the webinar committee, Joan Middleton, Scott Dury, Francis Dukier, Brian Evans, and Deb Ratchko for pulling all this together and being a bit of a filter on what we do in terms of webinar presentations. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Gino. Gino's going to talk about Explore Our Lakes. Gino has been on the KLCOA board for about 4 terms. He's been on the lake 43 years. He's an avid watercraft person and just a lovely guy to work with when it comes to water. He's also looks after our hazard marker boys on the lake this year. Over to you, Gino.
Great, Jim. Thank you. So just before I get into what I want to talk about today, which is how you can get out and explore the lakes and rivers in our area, just a little bit about TROW. Jim touched on it. So the kind of the objective with traditional rights of way was to protect any portage routes that might be under threat, mostly because of development issues. So often properties are sold. There might have been a traditional route passing through a particular property, and because of development, the routes are closed. So the goal of the TROW initiative is to try to protect and preserve as many portage routes, and often these are historical routes going back hundreds, if not thousands of years that were used by indigenous peoples before, first contact. So we have done some extensive work in directly around the Kennisis Lake area on a couple of portages. One is the portage from Cat Bay, which is on kind of the south part of Kennisis Lake, into Cat Lake. We wanted to ensure that route was legal and protected, and so we've done a lot of work around that, and it's protected, legal. And the other route we worked quite a bit on is the route from Soap Pond, again on the south part of Kennisis Lake, into a smaller lake called Lipsey, which we were able to identify the legal status of that and make sure that it's protected and people can continue to use those routes. So that's the TROW. We've had some legal experts on our team, and we also had the help of an outside lawyer who's specialized in this area. So we continue to work in that area. If new routes or new areas of concern come up, we'll definitely take a look at them and see what can be done to ensure those routes stay open. Because once these portages are closed off, it's very difficult to it's difficult to reroute them, and it's difficult to open them up again because there's often legal issues and people want to fight them. So the goal is to allow people to traverse and move freely among the rivers and lakes in the area. So yeah, so that's the background on the TROW part. And then a couple of years ago, I started to think, well, maybe it's important to kind of get out and communicate the benefits of these of canoeing or paddling or kayaking or even stand-up paddleboarding in the area, and what you can access from our lake or from some of the other lakes in the area. It's quite remarkable. So on this slide you're looking at, we are located in one of the world's premier paddling areas, and it's hard to, sometimes we forget that, but it's really a remarkable area, and we're located virtually in the middle of it, or the south part of it, if you want to call it that. Algonquin Park is really directly to the north of us. And many of you are familiar with Algonquin Park, I'm sure, and all the wonderful paddling opportunities that are available in that park. But you can access Algonquin directly from Kennisis if you want to do the hard work that's required to do that, or from some of the other lakes. So the message is, we are in a remarkable area, and there's so many wonderful opportunities to get out and enjoy the lakes and rivers. And just a little story, I was in Switzerland a number of years ago talking to a woman while I was waiting in an office for a meeting to begin, and she said, "Oh, where are you from?" Start talking. I said, "Oh, I'm from Ontario." She started talking about Algonquin Park, and we were in Switzerland, one of the most spectacular places in the world, really. And she said that about Algonquin Park. So that's the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life, and it made me realize, wow, you're right. It's pretty special. So Algonquin, and not just Algonquin, but where we are. So the message is, again, a remarkable area with lots of opportunities to get out and explore. And if you're a novice paddler and you haven't done much of this or done any of it, I'm hoping to help you appreciate what you can do. And if you're more experienced, then maybe there's some tips and tricks that I'll be able to impart. But my background, really, I just enjoy getting out and being on the water and paddling. I'm basically a flat water paddler. I don't have any experience doing whitewater. I mean, I've done a little bit of, like, very, very minor, but no training in that area. So yeah, like, if I can do it, so can you, kind of thing. And my family, my girls and their partners enjoy it. So we sometimes go out as a whole group. So it's pretty special. So anyway, this map you're looking at is, the dark green is Algonquin Park, And the blue arrow points to Kennisis Lake, where I'm located, and some of you probably are. And then directly to the left of the arrow is the Halliburton Highlands Water Trails, or the Frost area, which is another amazing, smaller area, but really amazing area where you can get out and explore. There's more development in that area, but it's still pretty special. So that's a really nice area to get out and paddle directly from Kennisis, or if you're on some of the other lakes in the area, you can get out and explore. So yeah, so that's kind of what this map is showing, a really big area. And way up at the north is the Ottawa River, Ottawa Valley, the north right corner there. So the indigenous peoples used to come up and traverse this area from the south to get up to the Ottawa. And they'd also come up to our area, and sometimes they'd summer in the Kennisis Lakes or Kennisis area. Or so there's multiple routes that have, again, like I said, go back thousands of years, and there's evidence of, you know, that from the carvings and the, you know, the pictographs, I guess they're called, that have been left behind. So we know that this area has been traversed for many years, and we're just following in the indigenous people's footsteps. So yeah, so maybe Jim, we could go to the next slide. So this is a slide that shows Kennisis Lake and some of the other lakes in the area, like Red Pine, and the purple lines are, you know, canoe routes or portage or canoe routes really, and ways you can traverse around or move around these, you know, this our lake and some of the other lakes. So if you look to the North Havelock Lake, that's in Halliburton Forest. So, you know, you can move up to Havelock or into Kelly. From Kennisis, I think with Halliburton Forest, if you want to go in there, you should make sure you have a day pass to use that area because it's private land. But there's a lot of paddling opportunities in Halliburton Forest as well. And so anyway, from Kennisis Lakes, you can move to the through the dam, and you can get into the Kennisis River, and that allows you probably the easiest way to access the Halliburton Highlands Water Trails system area. There's some really spectacular lakes in there where you can go in for day paddles, or even overnights if you want to do some camping. There's campsites in there that you can reserve and stay at, similar to the way Algonquin Park works. But in that particular system, Halliburton Highlands Water Trails, run by Algonquin Highlands municipality, you can reserve a specific site. So if you want to, excuse me, stay on a site. So those little triangles you see, for example, in Red Pine, those are campsites. And I think the colors correspond to the number of people that a particular site can you know, host for a night. So if you're interested in doing some day trips, a nice one is through the Kennisis River into Red Pine, or even into Clear Lake, which is a little bit to the west. Beautiful little lake, really spectacular lake, actually, Clear Lake. But there's multiple ways you can do a loop up through Red Pine. There's another dam in the north part of Red Pine. Yeah, Jim's pointing to that. And you can go across the dam, portage around the dam, into a beautiful lake called Noonakani. There's some really nice spots on that lake, and it's nice because there's no development on Noonakani at all. So you really feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, but you're very close to civilization. I think there's probably even cell coverage in there. Well, there is, depending on where you are. So the nice thing is you're not too far away from civilization, but you feel like you are in the Halliburton Highlands Water Trails area. So yeah, there's other really nice lakes there's a lake called Buckskin, which is you can access from Red Pine. There's a bit of Salagova Portage, a 630-meter portage to get into Buckskin, but it's a beautiful little lake. There's a couple campsites on that lake. You can go in and camp there, going for the day. There's also a portage showing into Kennisis, which is not, it's a bit problematic because it's not fully open, but you can certainly go from the west shore into Buckskin very, very easily if you want to do that. So just trying to point out some of the various routes. So you can see there's multiple ways to move around, even from Redstone into Kennisis, you can do that. So lots of different paddling opportunities. And again, just to reiterate, into the Halliburton Forest, there's a lot of beautiful paddling in there. So yeah, so for novice paddlers, there's a lot of options for day trips, or as I said, short overnight trips if you want to just build your skills.
I'm just going to jump in for 1 second. We had a question in the chat, and perhaps you could identify the map source as we're going through.
Okay, so yeah, good question. So this particular image comes from a map that was originally called Jeff's Maps, and yeah, it's a bit, you can find it on the internet if you poke around on a big PDF version. But Jeff's Maps has morphed into a company called so I have Jeff's Maps. So yeah, Jeff's Maps. I think he's changed the name, but it's still available, and they're really high quality maps. But yeah, Jeff's Maps is the source of this. Is the answer to that question. Just on maps, now that you've got me talking about maps, if you really kind of want to get into this in a big way, it's a good idea to have a couple maps when you go into these kind of backcountry areas, because occasionally there's errors in the maps or with maps. Portage maybe not in the right place. And the other thing that happens is things change in the backcountry. Beavers can create new routes or dam up things so that it changes the environment. So yeah, just think about that if you're going back, and try to get yourself a couple of maps as opposed to just one. Yeah, okay, maybe the next one, Jim. So what I thought, I wasn't sure what people's kind of skill set was, the people that are calling in, but I thought for people that just want to get started and get out and try to explore some of the area, here's some suggested day paddles directly from Kennisis Lake. And if you're not on Kennisis or you're on one of the other lakes, you could obviously still do these paddles. So one is this quite a nice one, just from Cat Bay, which is on the south part of Kennisis. So maybe Jim, if you want to go back to the other mapping to show people where Cat Bay is, if that's possible. So yeah, if you just want to point out Cat Bay there, yeah. So Jim, that's okay. So yeah, Cat Bay is kind of on the very south part, well, southwest part of the lake, I guess. There's a 635-meter portage from Cat Bay into a lake called Cat Lake, which is in the Halliburton Highlands. Thanks, Halliburton Highlands Water Trails area, or the Frost Center. So you can do that in an easy day trip. There's even some old growth forest on that portage, that 635-meter portage. It crosses West Shore at the very start of it from Cat Lake, but you can go in there quite easily, and you could spend a part of the day in there, have a picnic, or you could even camp overnight on one of the sites if you want to. Again, you'd have to reserve a site through the Algonquin Highlands system, but yeah, that's a good one. And you can access other lakes from Cat if you want, but that's a suggested option if you want to just get out and do a little bit of exploring from Kennisis. So that's the first suggested paddle for if you want to try something. So yeah, so the second one, and I talked a little bit about this, is to go into Red Pine from Kennisis Lake. So You go down the Kennisis River, and that's access from the Kennisis Dam. And the nice thing about that is you get a nice paddle down the river. It's a beautiful river. And it's, I don't know how, maybe it's 4 or 5K, yeah, paddle, if that, from Kennisis Dam down the river to Red Pine Lake, which is a lake with cottages on it, but it's there may be some roads in there now. I think there might be, but it's mostly just water access properties on Red Pine. So there's some really nice places to picnic in there. There's some small little islands you could picnic on. There's some larger islands that you can spend part of the day on if you want. If you want to go in, it's a nice place to do an overnight camp. If you want to just try that, some really nice spots in there, and you're not very far away from, home if that's something that's of a good concern. So that's and there's some nice options from Red Pine as well. You can get yourself into Clear Lake, which I mentioned before, which is a really special lake, and then you can also get from Red Pine. You can go into Noonahkanny. I think I mentioned that before, by another dam, which is on the north part of it. So that's a kind of a second option if you want to do a little bit of exploring from Kennisis. Yeah, and that's maybe a 4 to 6 hour kind of day, and just roughly estimating. So pick a nice day and do that. So the third one, if we could just go back, Jim, to the others.
Sorry, Tino, I've lost control here for a second.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
Get you back.
Yeah, so kind of what we're trying to do here is just give you a few options for easy little short trips, either day trips, or if you're interested in doing some overnighting stuff, you can do that. So I guess the third suggested paddle is to go from Soap Pond into Lipsey Lake, and this is one of the routes we help protect. It basically identify the legal status of it and make sure it was protected. So the way you access Lipsey Lake is you get yourself into Soap Pond, and if people don't know where Soap Pond is, Jim will show you in a second. It's in the very south part of Kennisis Lake, and it's a really special little pond, basically a little bay, a pond really off the big lake, and we've actually done some work protecting the land in there as the KLCOA as well, which Jim might tell you about in a minute. But so the way to get into Lipsey is you go into Soap Pond, paddle yourself into Soap Pond, and then there's a very well identified portage sign very close to where there's like a little river that flows down from Lipsey into our lake. So you'll see the portage sign. You just get yourself through the portage. It's about a 750-meter portage or walk through the forest. It's pretty accessible. It's a bit tricky at the end because there's a property that was built right directly on where the portage was. So really the best way is to kind of go to the right of that property and get yourself into Lipsey. And you can paddle yourself around Lipsey, and it's a special, nice little lake. Not too many properties on it, but really a nice little, half day kind of little excursion, if you will. Yeah, so those are the three kind of suggested paddles if you're just you want to try things out and just want to get into some paddling. There's all kinds of opportunities, but I'm just trying to point out three of them, and those are all those routes are all marked and posted with those signs you can see in the picture. The other thing I suggest is if you want to go into the Frost Center or the Halliburton Highlands Water Trails, get yourself a map. A good one is this Chris Farm map. There's others, but this is a good one. You can find it online if you go to their website, or you can pick it up at local retailers or sporting goods stores, or it's pretty easy to get. But it's a good map, and yeah, waterproof map, and I'd suggest you go in with something like that if you want to go into the frost center. So yeah. So I guess the next thing I want to talk about is if you want to do some overnight tripping.
Sorry, Gino.
That's okay. If you want to do some overnight tripping, you can certainly do that in the Frost Center or the Halbert Islands Water Trails area. So this is just one example that my family and I did a few years ago. We did I think it was a 3-day, 2-night trip. Nothing too strenuous, a little bit of work, but nothing crazy. So we went from the Kennisis Dam through Red Pine. I think Kennisis. We went from Kennisis into Clear Lake, I guess it is. I'm trying to remember how we did. Well, let's see at the bottom. Yellow line is outbound. So yellow line, yeah, Clear, I think it is, into Little Hawk, which is a lake to the south of us, southwest of Kennisis. There's cottages on it, but it's a nice lake to paddle on, and you could paddle yourself into some more remote, I just call it remote lakes, like a lake called Sherburne Lake, and we ended up on a very small lake called Little Avery Lake. So we did a night there. So we paddled that whole yellow line one night, and then we came back via a slightly different route, and we spent the night on Clear Lake, which is there's some at least 2 campsites on there, maybe more actually, but it's probably more, but a really nice paddle. And then the 3rd day we made our way back by Clear into Red Pine and the dam and into Kennisis. So, a nice little, it was a long weekend thing with myself, my wife, my 2 daughters, and their partners at the time. Now one's a husband and the next one's going to be a husband. So the interesting thing about this is my girls, like I paddled, my girls enjoyed canoeing, but their spouses or boyfriends had never really done it before, but they got them into it. So it's kind of a family thing now. We all kind of enjoy getting out and doing it together. It's really a great experience. So yeah, if you have a crew and you want to do it, it's great. We had 3 boats, and yeah, nice to do. So again, just to reiterate, if you go into the Frost Center, you need to reserve if you're going to stay overnight, you need to reserve your site. And they have a pretty efficient reservation system. It's not very expensive to reserve your sites. And you can go to algonquinhighlands.ca, and there's a tab, reserve a backcountry campsite tab, and then you can just do it that way. I think you can even phone them if you want to do it that way as well. But their online system is really good actually. So yeah, but I think we're done with that one, Jim. So yeah, this is just a little article from a local newspaper that talks about the trip I was just talking about. And that's the whole crew along with the dog. And yeah, we had a nice paddle. So just trying to communicate to people about the opportunities to use the portage routes in the area, and how great it is. It's a great thing to do. So yeah, actually, if you want to see that article, you can find it online. If you probably just search my name in Country Life Canoe Trips, you probably find it. It tells you in a little more detail about the trip I'm talking about right now. And it's got some background about the TROW project, and what we've been working on and what we have worked on in the past. So yeah, I'm talking about canoeing, but you can obviously kayak on these routes as well, as long as you can carry your boat. So yeah, that picture's taken on a really clear lake at a really beautiful site on Clear. which has a higher level of protection than some of the other the lakes in the Halliburton Highlands Water Trail system. So it's a higher level of protection. Okay, I think that's good, Jim. So if you're, that's kind of easier paddling opportunities, easier tripping. A good way to start is some of the things I just talked about. You don't have a lot of experience, you probably want to start with some smaller trips just to get your skills up, and you're always learning things about. I'm learning all the time about different things you can do to make things better, or how to move your boat and everything else. But if you're feeling more adventurous, you can come, if you want, you can come down from Algonquin Park all the way to the Gull River system. There's ways to do that. It's a pretty interesting adventure. So I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, a friend of mine, and he's pictured in, that's when we were just starting on the left, that picture on the left, friend Rob, who does a lot of paddling with me. We decided to try to make it all the way down to my cottage from Highway 60 up in Algonquin Park. So we had it all planned out, and we I think we were going to do it in 4 days, and we almost made it. We couldn't quite make it all the way down. We got ourselves into Halliburton Forest, and we booked an overnight stay there as the last night. But when we made it all the way down to a lake called Wildcat Lake. It's in the north part of Halliburton Forest. We couldn't get through a creek system called Wildcat Creek because there just wasn't enough water. We were kind of tail end of August, and it dried up, so we decided better to bail and then get ourselves into deeper trouble. So it was quite an experience. Of the south part of the Algonquin Park that we traveled through is not very traveled, and so I think there's about 2 days we didn't see anybody at all, even though we weren't that far from anything. But it's still pretty remote in there, so it was never forget experience. Never forget. We talk about it a lot. There's other ways to come down to Kennisis and the Gull River. You can go via Coagama, which I haven't done, but I have a neighbor at the cottage who did it with his son a number of years ago, and he spoke highly of it. It wasn't easy. There were some tricky things they had to go through, but it's a trip I'm thinking about doing with some friends, maybe. So just to point out that you can go up to Algonquin from us or down, and there's multiple paddling opportunities if you take a look at the maps and start figuring things out. And when I plan these trips, I obviously look at maps, think about the travel time, and I use Google Earth to drill down on particular routes and portages. Some of the portages on these routes are not used very frequently, so it's Google Earth kind of helps you a little bit to try to see if what's there. It's not the resolution's not superb, but when you're trying to figure out about some of these historical portages, some of them probably haven't been used for years, so you're maybe not quite bushwhacking through, but you certainly want to make sure you've got as much information as you possibly can before you set out on some of these adventures. And if you do that kind of thing, make sure you have a good communication device so you can call for help, like a sat phone, InReach is probably the best thing, which I use. So the message is from our lake or our lakes in our area, you can travel far and wide if you really want to. There's even opportunities to paddle down the Gull River system. I have some older maps from back in the day from the 70s that show paddling opportunities down there, which I haven't done, but certainly some nice ways to paddle down the Bell River to points farther south. So yeah, the message is, wonderful, wonderful opportunities to move around the area with a boat, and I'd encourage you to get out if you're thinking about doing it and haven't, do it, and if you're more advanced, then keep at it. So I think that covers that one, Jim. So to encourage people to paddle and to get out and explore some of the lakes, we've come up with a couple, we're calling them come paddle with us for a day, or come paddle with us days, paddling days really. And we've got 2 events scheduled that the KLCOA is hosting. So, and you don't have to be a KLCOA member to come to these, I don't think, but you're certainly welcome to join. So the first event is being held on Tuesday, July 15th. And that will be at starting at 5 p.m. at Halibut Forest. And I think the routes are being determined where folks are going to go. I think it depends on how many people register and what their interest level is, but that's a good opportunity if you want to get out and do a little bit of paddling. And then the second event, which I'm gonna host, I guess, is in August. So we're gonna paddle on Saturday, August 16th, rain or shine, unless there's a tornado or something. 9 a.m. We're gonna leave from Kennisis Dam. We're gonna paddle the Kennisis River, the kind of the route I talked about earlier, into Red Pine, and then we're gonna take a short portage into a lake called Clear Lake, which I've spoken about before, and then we'll have lunch on Clear, and then we'll come back by the same way in a short portage to Kennisis. So if anybody's interested and wants to participate, you can sign up at KLCOA website. There's a sign up page. There's limited numbers of people. Excuse me, I'm taking a drink now. Yeah, so I don't know. I've probably about 10 people per, or 10 boats per event is probably what we're going to cap the registration at. But if you're interested, yeah, please join us on for one or both of these events if you're interested. So yeah, I think that kind of wraps things up. I hope I've covered. Yeah, so the message I just want to say is, the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. That's so true. Get out and do stuff. So if you're kind of just thinking about doing something or doing this, I'd encourage you to try it or do it, and those paddling days I mentioned are maybe good ways to get your feet wet and learn a little bit more about it. And if you're a more experienced paddler, then just keep at it is what I'd say. And yeah, so I think that's really what I wanted to say. I hope I've covered some things. So maybe it's time for questions, comments. Yeah.
Stop sharing. There we go. Yeah, so I'm just going to go to the chat and see if we've got some questions. We had a couple earlier. First one, what was the name of the map? And Scott put that in, Maps by Jeff, and it used to be called Jeff's Maps.
Yeah.
Another question, Julie Bram, and I think maybe it was answered by Cam. Have you found the old growth trees, I think pines, just off the Clear Lake Portage, Red Pine to Clear Lake? That a question for you can answer, Gino? I think Cam said if walking to Red Pine on the right or left side of the portage.
That's the short. Yeah, I don't know for sure. I've been on that multiple times. There probably is some old growth. I'm pretty sure there's some old growth on. I think I mentioned before, Cat Lake, Cat on the left. So yeah, still there.
Another chat, Tegan from Halliburton Forest is going to lead the forest event on July the 15th. I'm excited to bring folks out on July the 15th, and Tegan will be determining what the exact route is that evening from 5 o'clock. So thanks, Tegan, for that. So,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jude.
Yeah, so yeah, Tegan said, great. I'm glad Tegan's on the line. Yeah, and joining us. So yeah, she's the other thing Tegan's agreed to do is provide people with complimentary passes for the Halliburton forest area. So that'll be covered as part of the registration package. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, at this point, if anybody has any questions, if they don't mind unmuting, and just share, maybe you could even share your video if you wish, and
And then
just ask a question or two.
yeah, and maybe people who actually have experience here that just want to share a little story or something. So I'd be happy to hear. You always can learn from folks about their backcountry or paddling experience.
Don't see any right now. I could share a really short one. It's similar to what Gino was talking about. Our family often paddled into Clear Lake, and if you're there at the right time of day and the right time of year, it's aqua blue. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous lake, and it's just a great place to go in for a picnic or spend the day. It's warm, great swimming. So yeah, nice. Any comments, Tegan?
Yeah, I mean, if there's no other questions, I can talk a little bit about the paddling night. Once we know who wants to come out, my idea was I would just email everybody and see what everybody's kind of adventure level is, because there's some beautiful spots that we can go to that are kind of remote, but some of it requires going over beaver dams and logs and things, or we can just do like a nice leisurely paddle somewhere like Havelock Lake or McDonald Lake. So that was kind of my plan there. I think a big part is that a lot of people don't know is we also have paddle in campsites. So I do a bit of both. I go into the Algonquin Highlands quite a bit with my family and friends, and it's a lot of fun. I've done a few solo trips. So if you ever get a chance to go into the Algonquin Highlands, it's spectacular. Clear Lake is as beautiful as they're spouting tonight. But we also have some paddle and campsites at Halliburton Forest, one of which is on Havelock. And over the next month or two, we're going to be putting a few more in. So you could potentially do a trip from Kennisis, Kelly, Johnson, and into Havelock and camp overnight in there. And it would be the same idea as the Algonquin Highlands Trail system that you would just reserve the site. Or if you're doing day trips, like Gino said, maybe get a day pass. That would be appreciated, like you would if you're going into Algonquin Park. But yeah, the area is stunning, so get out and enjoy for sure.
Hey Tegan, do you know of any folks who come down through the forest via Coagama through the the
I
any,
do.
yeah? So what's the
Um,
verdict on that?
it's a scary trek, and that was like 10 years ago. So I
Okay.
used to plan all the canoe trips that our guides would do with school groups.
Yeah.
And so I had the luxury of just looking at a map and picking campsites.
Yeah.
They had the luxury of actually having to do the bushwhacks through the unmaintained portages. So what
Uh-huh.
what they would have done, which is probably a bit different than what you attempted or your friend attempted, is
Yeah.
they went Coagama into Lady Slipper,
Okay.
um, and then into Stalking Lake. But there was
Hmm.
a portage in there that they said was like never maintained, and it was down a cliff. But who knows? They
Really?
might have also been in the wrong spot. So it was
Hmm.
definitely interesting. But I've had a lot of folks do the trip that you mentioned, where they go through Algonquin into Havelock, into South Havelock, or into Wildcat, into South Wildcat, Havelock, and then down through. So I've had that a few times. I've had a few folks park at the north of Algonquin, of our property, and go into Algonquin for some of
Hmm.
those more remote lakes.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities there. You just have to give us a call, and somebody at the front desk might not know what's going on, but they'll just pass you on to me, and we'll sort things out.
So the portage from Havelock to Johnson, what's that like? Do you know?
I've never done it myself, but the hunters in that zone keep it clear for when they're hunting.
Okay.
So the campsite that we put in last year or the year before is actually right across the bay from that portage.
Okay.
Um, I've actually just bushwhacked parallel to the creek that's there. I've never actually done the trail because I
Okay.
just wanted to walk the creek bed. But I would imagine it's not terribly difficult and
Okay.
it's quite well maintained. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's great. Very good to know.
Yeah.
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 And Julie has added a comment. Wildcat Lake in the forest is a beautiful lake with a long finger, almost like a fjord, a wetland at the other end. So yeah, great stories about these paddles.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean,
Both
Tegan enough.
Wildcat and South Wildcat are absolutely spectacular. Yeah, I mean all the lakes are at the forest, but all the lakes in the forest, for the most part, I've paddled about 60 of the 100 that are in the property. They all have a waterfall somewhere, where there's water coming into the lake or leaving the lake, and then always lots of birds and animals. And the more north you go, the more remote and the less the animals realize that humans are there, and the more likely you are going to see something. I've had, fishers and pine martens like stop on beaver dams and be like, "What are you?" Right, and beavers come right under my kayak, and so it's great. It's awesome.
Okay, any final thoughts, stories from the participants here tonight? Okay, hearing none, I've got a couple more slides about adventures and things to do. So I'm going to go back to that. So just a little bit of an advert for what the other things that the KLCOA does, and this is very much related to traditional rights of way, land protection, and making places for people to go. So the KLCOA owns or participates in ownership of 5 properties on the lakes. We really have no public access on the lake. So when all the subdivisions were done, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, there wasn't an awful lot of forethought to public areas that could be accessible. There was some, and some of the areas were put aside for eventual ownership of the KLCOA. So the Blueberry Islands, the Bullfrog Bay, and the Soap Pond lands fell into that category. So over the years, we've acquired those lands. We pay taxes on a couple of them, but number of them are tax free. Loon Island we acquired from a developer with a great story, which is for another day. I think it's on the website. And Nora's Island, 22 acres, absolutely pristine. It's owned by the Halliburton Highlands Land Trust in partnership with the KLCOA and co-managed through the Nora's Island Management Committee. So please use these lands. That's what they're there for. Tread lightly, but do tread. And finally, in order to encourage the use of the lands and celebrate the lands we have, on August 4th, there would be a picnic from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. It got rained out the last couple of years, so we're hoping it happens this year. Bring a lunch, and it's to celebrate the partnership between the Halliburton Highlands Land Trust and the KLCOA. And thanks to the reps, Paula, Janice, and Jeff that keep this work going. So I'd just like to have a warm thanks for Gino for pulling this together, Tegan for participating in the paddling events this summer, and for all of you who joined us tonight. I think that was a great webinar and a real opportunity to think about getting out and paddling. And any closing remarks, Gino?
Well, just thank you, Jim, for all the organization and the work you did. Like you helped pull it together, not me. I just did the presentation. So yeah, great job. Thank you.
Pleasure. Okay, I think we'll call it a night, and thanks everyone for coming, and we're early on time. Give you back a little bit of your evening. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.